Welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Rayburn, what's going on in your world?
Well, I have been doing kitchen renovations. That's been my project for this week, as well as applying to more jobs. The list is endless on the amount of jobs that I've been.
Are you at least seeing things you're interested in?
Yes, I am. And I have gotten a pretty good response as far as correspondence and people being interested. So I have some options. Now I'm just trying to get to the second step on those options.
Cool. I just wondered about the nature of the job market right now. I haven't had to go look, but what started the kitchen reno?
Well, I'm at home all the time and not doing shit else. So we've been talking about it for a while. We're redoing the cabinets, which is my job. You'll get to see it. It's interesting.
Nice.
And we're updating the countertops and adding a backsplash. So that's going to be my baby project that I've been working on. And I'm about, I would say about 40% done at this point.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what's been filling up my time this past week. What about you?
At least you're putting it to good use.
I'm trying to be productive.
I got to feel my daughter move for the first time this week. That was pretty exciting for me. Kicking around in the womb.
She's kicking it.
Yeah. Wife's been so sick, I haven't really gotten close to her until recently.
Yeah.
Now we're in that second trimester, and she is quite active.
Yeah.
So get down there talking to her, and she wants to move all around like a goober. I don't know what word I should be using for a fetus kicking in the womb.
Yeah, cletus. Cletus the fetus.
Yes, if you know the correct terminology, please make us aware. Other than that, I'm just making a bunch of wine and cider for the holidays. Mm-hmm. So you got to see.
I did. I got to hear it first, though.
Yeah. Sounds like the water's running, or we have a leak in the kitchen.
Yes.
Nope, it's just the bubbles escaping through the airlock.
Yep.
The 10 airlocks on the kitchen table.
It's like a whole production. I walked past it and thought I was in Breaking Bad for a minute because it looks like a scientist laboratory in your dining room.
That's what I'm going for.
Nice.
I want to be the next Walter White.
Nice.
Before we get started, I wanted to make mention of the fact that we know that we got placement of a lot of Beatles songs wrong last week.
Yeah.
The only thing I really wanted to clarify, though, was the Fats Domino track. It was Lovely Rita, not Sexy Sadie. And it is a Beatles lady cover. Yeah. Anything else you got before we get going?
Can we just move the fuck on already?
Let's roll the intro. Well, as you can probably tell, listeners, we are not joined this week. Our guest that was going to be on did have a health scare. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too deep into any of that because that's his personal business. Suffice it to say, we are still very excited to have him on in the future.
Yes.
And love his work. So without plugging him too much and saving everything for that future episode, Neil Ryan and the Mistreated on Spotify. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go listen to it.
Yeah.
We went ahead and pulled a quick music list out of our back pockets.
Because we have so many to choose from.
Yeah.
We're piggybacking off of my list from the previous week. And we're going to do another top 10 Halloween songs because why the hell not?
It just made sense. It's that time of the year.
Yeah. So we're going to get started with Shane going first since I went first last week.
Cool.
On another top 10 Halloween songs.
My first pick was Halloween by AFI. It's a Misfits cover. I do like it more than the Misfits version because I'm a little bitch. So.
Well said.
What's your first pick, Raven?
My first pick, because I couldn't get enough of White Zombie or Rob Zombie on my last list, is Living Dead Girl by Rob Zombie. Every Halloween that rolled around, this song was definitely playing on whatever playlist was being created at that time. If you know anything or have been listening to past episodes, including my dad, he's kind of the reason for the White Zombie, Rob Zombie love, especially during spooky times. So, Living Dead Girl by Rob Zombie, it's a good one.
Like you said, got him through a lot of hard times.
Oh, yeah.
I can appreciate that.
What's your next pick?
Next pick for me is Midnight in Montgomery by Alan Jackson. This song is definitely spooky, and towards the end, it really drives it home for someone like me because if you don't know by now, I have a very real obsession with Hank Williams Sr. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
What's your next pick, Raven?
My next pick is Tear You Apart by She Wants Revenge. This song was included on the number 23 soundtrack. That's that really weird movie, like Jim Carrey's attempt at thriller. Like a thriller, almost, I wouldn't even call it horror. I would definitely call it thriller. Anyway, I liked this song when I first saw that movie. My parents have just now rediscovered this song and pulled a Tennessee whiskey on me.
Nice.
And I'm now getting videos of including that song. And I'm like, I've been about this song for the past 10 years. Where have you been? But anyway, She Wants Revenge, Tear You Apart. It's a good one. I don't know what else to say.
I get the number films confused. So you say number 23 and...
What do you get it confused with?
I don't know. There are other films out there that have numbers in the title. For some reason I can't...
No, 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Yeah, or 28 Days and...
40 Days of Night, 20 Days of Night. Yeah.
1408.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know why. I just jumble them in my head. I'm really good at math, so that doesn't make any sense.
I am not, so maybe that's why I remember. What's your next pick?
Next up for me is Kiss Eternal by Lords of Acid. It's a good song. All I have to say about it. What's your next pick?
My next pick is Gods and Monsters by Lana Del Rey. This was featured on the American Horror Story season Freak Show. It was, a cover was done by Elsa Mars, which is Jessica Lange. So I do prefer the Lana Del Rey version, but...
That's right. I remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that show actually turned me onto this song. Like I said, I still prefer the Lana version.
Which was my top song from Paradise.
It was. God, you jumping the gun, man. I'm trying to get these little tidbits in there. But yeah, anyway.
You watched the video for Gods and Monsters?
No, I haven't.
It's weird.
Okay.
You should check it out.
Got it.
It's weird.
It's weird. It's spooky season. I'll watch anything weird.
It's spooky.
Speaking of...
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Speaking of, I heard it get any better for Bly Manor for you?
I did like the end.
So you finish it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on the 3rd episode right now. I'm working through it.
It reminded me a lot of Watchmen.
Okay.
The miniseries that came out on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I had the same trouble getting into that show because they do character studies for almost entire episodes at times, where you're just focused on this one character and getting to know their story. Mm-hmm. And I understand why you do that, but I did see similarities there. And I think this show, it had so much to live up to.
Yeah, because that first season was a banger for sure.
And the horror element was much more prominent in the first. This one did focus really heavily on meaningful relationships, and yeah, I thought it was well done in the end.
Good.
I know some people who were on like their 3rd watch of this thing already.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some people out there that really love this show, so I don't want to knock it in any way. Mm-hmm. It's just not something I'm going to watch again, and I think it would probably have been better served coming out, as I said online, around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely more indicative of the theme.
Okay.
But it has some scary elements. And I think I would have liked it a little bit better if it answered a few more of the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't help noticing the small things that were left untouched.
See, and I absolutely love the first season. I would have loved for them to do a continuation, but with the way that the first season ended, I mean, how can you really? Yeah. It ended on a good note. And I guess I wanted more of the siblings from the first season.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And the ending, some of it did really fly right over my head until the end.
Okay.
So some of what I wrote online is not indicative of the entire show.
I was curious.
There were surprises. I can't give them away, obviously. It was something I think a lot of people will like.
Well, good.
A lot.
All right. Moving on to your next pick.
My 4th pick was Hotel California by the Eagles. Don't think this one needs a whole lot of explanation. It's a song about people who are trapped in a mental institution, essentially. There's just a creep factor for me that's always been there. And I remember people playing this song when I was young, around this time of year.
I'm going to get Gage to play it for you. He just learned it.
On guitar?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. when that party that y'all stayed home from, and that wasn't me throwing shade just then, the housewarming party.
I didn't even think about it, by the way. Just right over my head. Shade? What shade? Go ahead.
He did a poster of all the songs that he knew, and then he asked people, like he put a bowl and slips of paper next to the food and that poster, and he told people to make song suggestions for him to play throughout the night. It was really, really cute.
That is cool.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
that was on the list. That and Space Oddity. I'm gonna say that for Samantha because she always makes fun of me because apparently I say Odyssey. Space Oddity.
People mention that song, and all I think about, Tim Tebow to Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Jimmy Fallon. Did you ever see that? I'll put it on mentions.
Nice. I've seen his other covers that he's done. Like I love his Neil Young stuff.
Yeah.
And then his More Than Words with Jack Black.
See, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, dude. They recreate the More Than Words music video. Jack Black's got this long flowing black hair and this open flowing shirt like they do in the video. Yeah, you should watch it. It's stupid. Anyway, my fourth pick is Lullaby by The Cure. This was also brought to my attention from American Horror Story, but I believe it was from Hotel. I love The Cure, but I didn't know about this song. And it's, to this day, probably one of my favorite Cure songs.
That's also a lot of people's favorite sexist song.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard it numerous times in my life that song just gets certain people in the mood.
I can see it.
I like the song.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay. What's your next pick?
Next pick for me is I Put a Spell on You by Marilyn Manson. Sorry, Rayburn.
It's okay. I had a backup just in case.
You had one on the last list. I had to go with this one. It is my favorite Manson cover. Mm-hmm. Although all of his covers that I've heard have been exquisite. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just a great song.
No explanation needed.
No, I'm not giving stories today. Like I said, this was real quickly put together and
it's fine.
Let's do it to it. What's your last pick for the first half?
My last pick is Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
That just sounds wrong.
The Nick Cave or Red Right Hand?
Red Right Hand.
Oh.
What's the first thing that goes through your head when you hear Red Right Hand?
Vampire's Assistant, because that's where I heard it.
Oh, okay.
Where John C. Reilly's a vampire.
Masturbation is what went through mine.
Get your mind out of the gutter. It's entirely too early.
I'm not trying to be in the gutter. That's just what went through my head. Anyway, continue talking.
You ever do that so long you get a red right hand?
I don't actually look at my hand to know whether or not it's red.
Okay, nice. Anyway, it's kind of gruff sounding, but there's like an 60s synth piano in it. Anyway, I just really like it. If you listen to it, you'll get why it would be on a Halloween playlist, which you can find on my playlist on Spotify under the name Rayburn Alexander.
Also, I'll be sure to study the post-masturbation hand and get back to you, although it won't make sense because I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
So, if anything,
this
it would
literally does not apply to you whatsoever.
Let's move on to the artist, shall we?
All right, let's move on.
Who are we covering first, Rayburn?
Blondie.
I
did not wear a sweatband.
No, you did not.
No, I didn't, even though I said I would.
You were trying to look official today, right?
I was. All for Neil. I put on pants today and everything.
Well, there will be a next time.
And I'll have to put on pants again, I'm sure. Moving on to our first artist. The first album that we covered by this artist was Blondie from 1976. This fell on the bottom for me.
This was my top.
I gave it 2 5s.
I gave it 5.
My top track was Rip Her to Shreds.
Mine was Rifle Range.
And my bottom track was The Attack of the Giant Ants.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually liked that song. Mm-hmm. It just, you could tell they were going for a horror movie B-side.
Yes.
Like Godzilla type thing through the middle.
I got major, what was the Johnny Depp movie, the Tim Burton movie about the director? What was the director's name? He was an actual director. He made like B-side.
Is that Mordecai? Is that what that film?
No, it's not Mordecai.
I don't know what.
I'm sorry. I'll think of his name. I'm trying to remember him now. Anyway, the next album that we covered was Plastic Letters from 1977. This was second to last for me.
Same.
I gave it 2 5s.
3.
My top track was Cautious Lip.
Bermuda Triangle Blues.
That was my runner-up for top track.
Yeah.
My bottom track was Contact in Red Square.
I didn't rate that one highly either, but my bottom was Denis.
DeNephew.
Or Dennis or Denise. They say Denis.
Yeah, they
Denis,
do.
Denis.
Which I found out, which I kind of figured it out before I found it out, that Debbie Harry is bisexual. And it's very apparent because she sings songs about girls a lot.
That never even went through my head, weirdly.
Really?
I just thought maybe, well, it's her and a bunch of dudes, and I thought maybe the guys were
It was writing the
hetero
music,
and writing
yeah.
some of the lyrics sometimes. I don't know.
Well, there you go.
Next album.
Next album is Parallel Lines from 1978. This fell in the middle for me.
This was my bottom.
I gave it 3 5s.
1 5.
My top track was Fade Away and Radiate.
Heart of Glass.
My bottom track was Just Go Away.
Sunday Girl. About your top track, I really wanted to like that song.
You didn't like it?
No,
Like at all?
it had so much potential,
Okay.
and there's a lot of that in this group.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great musicianship. It was just too slow to get there. I sound continuously like I hate slow music.
No, if that's the case, I continuously sound like I love slow music because I think that that's an ongoing thing. I have to sit there and think, do I just love a song because it's slow? And I had a lot, like the artists that we covered this week, slow is not their thing.
Before the show, speed of songs and stuff never really entered my head. I don't know why it's something that's constantly there rating and talking about this.
Well, because I think that we haven't really had to cover a lot of 80s, like especially punk artists.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a lot of that with our next artist that we're going to cover.
If you can't tell, by the way, for the disappointed people out there, this album only got the 1 5, which was Heart of Glass, which means one way or another. Did not get a 5 for me.
I cannot believe you gave Heart of Glass a 5 over one way or another.
In my head, one way or another sounds like something that should be a 5, but every time I sit down to actually listen to it,
okay,
it's a 4.
Okay.
It's
That's
good.
Fine. I'm not going to chastise you.
It's not something I go wanting to listen to.
Okay. The next album that we covered by Blondie was Eat to the Beat.
Yes.
From 1979. This was my top album.
This was in the middle for me.
I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I gave it 4 5s.
3 5s.
My top track was Dreaming.
Union City Blue or Shayla.
My bottom track was Victor.
Sound Asleep. I didn't have great feelings about Victor either. The weirdest part about this album in my memory is always going to be, I looked at this, I rated this, read all about it, and still thought the title of the album was Eat the Beat.
Yeah.
Not Eat to the Beat. Eat the Beat.
Yep, that's why I clarified. I still like Eat the Beat.
I don't even know what to say.
Eat the Beat. Moving on to our next album we covered was Autoamerican from 1980. This was my runner-up.
Same.
I gave it 3 5s.
Same.
My top track was Here's Looking at You.
T-Birds.
My bottom track was Angels on the Balcony.
The Tide is High.
Okay. Couldn't get into that cover, huh?
That was a number 1.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And I saw people talking about how much they loved it. No, something about it was off-putting for me.
I will say one thing about this album. I was very disappointed that Call Me was not featured.
Was an extended?
Yes. It was originally featured on the American Gigolo soundtrack. It was the theme from the movie starring Richard Gere. I believe it was Richard Gere. Anyway, yeah, most of you, meaning my sister, will know it from Bride of Chucky, the song that Tiffany plays as she gets ready. I had to relay that information to my sister this week that no, it came from American Gigolo. She was like, what? Anyway, yeah, Call Me wasn't featured on Auto-American, but it was added later during the remastered and deluxe edition.
And there is a great cover of that song out now, done by the group In This Moment.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you should watch the video too. I think you would appreciate both.
All right, let's get on to the questionnaire.
What was your weirdest track?
Angels on the Balcony. That intro, there's a complete sound change, and I had to go back and make sure that the song didn't skip or that the piece that I originally was listening to didn't end and another song start.
Yeah.
So it literally just confusion. It threw me off with such dramatic sound change. Anyway.
Mine was Follow Me. I think this was the last track from Autoamerican. I gave it a 5. but it sounds like a Disney song. Like you could literally pull it from a Disney soundtrack and it would fit. What was your best title?
Ex-Offender. Another one that came close was a shark in Jet's clothing.
That was a good one.
So,
It's a good song.
Yeah.
Fade Away and Radiate was my best title. What about your worst?
Angels on the Balcony.
What would you have used instead?
Momentary Confusion.
I think that happened a few times this week too in some of the music we listened to where it started out
one thing
and then stopped.
Yeah.
My worst title was Dreaming.
Okay.
It just seemed too blasé.
Yeah.
And I would have gone with Dreaming is Free. It's not much better, but it does fit the lyrics.
It's a little bit more enticing.
Yeah.
What would you say Blondie's strongest element is?
Heavy doses of talent and potential.
Okay.
I can't stress enough. This artist really did surprise me. You can't necessarily tell based on the 5s, but I gave it a lot of 4s, and I really did enjoy a lot of this music. The sound was something I was not expecting, and they do have a lot of stylistic versatility. It's not the first time I've said that about somebody, but it was not something I was expecting. What about you?
I can agree as far as not expecting certain things out of them. They did a lot more than I thought that they did. I said recognizable vocals.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as a Blondie song comes on, her sound is extremely recognizable, whether it be touching on like that 50s doo-wop sound, which they do, to like the 60s. I wouldn't even know what you call that sound, and then to the spacey sounds of like the 80s, like just entering into the 80s. So
all over the map. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about weakest element?
I said their repetitive sounds. They recycle a lot of their instrumentals.
Okay.
And I think that they could have did a lot more sounds wise. They did get a little weird, but I encourage experimentation for the sake of, you know, sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong.
Yeah.
But at least, hey, you're trying. So I would have liked a little bit more versatility when it comes to their instrumentals.
Well, the problem for me is they have a habit of using a chorus once and not revisiting it.
Okay.
Their tracks are short.
Yes.
Or shorter, and I did appreciate that. But they'd only use choruses once sometimes. That bothered me. The other thing was use of instrumentals as hooks.
Okay.
Like the sheer number of times you get to the chorus.
And it's just music,
it's just
no
music.
lyrics.
There's no lyrics, no vocals. It just didn't work for me a lot of the time.
Okay. Did you know that the song Rapture, Debbie Harry is credited as being one of the first white females to ever rap in a song?
No, I did wonder about that because this stuff was quite old. I didn't know. I thought most of this stuff was done in the 80s. This was mid to late 70s when a lot of this was done. 1 year after another. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, I found that out and I got to listen. Like I went back and listened to Rapture and I'm like, this is what they classified as rap? This is like talk singing.
Well, hip hop in the beginning was that.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought you should know that. Who do you think Blondie sounds like?
Well, what I think Blondie sounds like is beach rock with punk sensibilities. It was like you took something like the B-52s and you threw a heavy dose of punk on top of it. And then you also had like tinges of Devo in a lot of places, like the drum speed. Yeah. Technically, this group is superbly talented. And I liked the sound a lot more than I was expecting. What about you?
In comparison to other artists, I said Josie Cotton. I said She and Him. Specifically, she sounds a lot like Zooey Deschanel when she sings to me.
Yeah.
I said the Pretenders and I said the Go-Go's.
I can agree with all of that.
So, yeah. I even got doses of like Cyndi Lauper when they were getting closer to that 80s sound.
And you mentioned Cotton.
Yes.
Which I don't want to talk about this movie too much, but it really did. A lot of this music gave me Valley Girl vibes.
Yes.
When would you listen to this artist and how does their music make you feel?
I said, like I'm walking into a club in 1979. A lot of different stuff going on, touching on a lot of the newer sounds, experimentation as far as, you know, the music scene is going to be, but also appreciating where it's coming from. Like the wallpapers from the 60s, but they're playing some newer stuff. Like they haven't updated.
Well, I said it was good background music for a party, so I understand what you're going for.
Yeah.
How does the music make you feel?
I already answered that.
Oh, my bad. My answer was like I've misjudged older music.
That's fair.
And I'm learning that really quickly, that a lot of the sounds that I thought were from a particular era, they existed prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Stemming back where it comes from. And
yes.
Yeah. It's always nice to appreciate where certain sounds come from.
Well, you hear what's playing on the radio at the time, and when you grow up with Time Life CDs and stuff that make it seem like that is what was during this era, and you tend to forget all of these other styles of music are still happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What was your first or best experience with this artist?
My best experience, the only thing I could say, because I don't have a lot of Blondie experience, was just going back over this week's fives when I actually had done all the digging and got it all compressed into what I wanted to hear. Great experience.
Yeah, I can agree. My best experience was Call Me from Bride of Chucky. And then having to listen to my sister play that song on repeat on a boombox. She loved that song. Like Tiffany from that movie was like goals. And if you know my sister, it completely makes sense.
Tiffany was goals?
Tiffany was goals to her. She thought she was so pretty. Also played by Jennifer Tilly and voiced by Jennifer Tilly, which my sister still thinks Jennifer Tilly's hot. So there you go. Who would you want them to collaborate with, and what cover would you like them to sing?
I wouldn't have minded a collaboration with the Ramones. And I didn't answer the cover thing because I wasn't really digging their covers.
I did.
Go for it.
I want a mega girl group of Debbie Harry.
Of course you do.
Debbie Harry, Belinda Carlisle from the Go-Go's, and Cyndi Lauper. And I want them to sing Hazy Shade of Winter by the Bangles.
I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, don't, because you will get slapped.
There's nothing
down.
to knock. That's what I'm saying. Not that I want to knock it and I'm choosing not to. I'm saying there's nothing to knock in that response.
Good, because I took a lot of thought went into that.
What makes this artist seem unique?
I said their vocals and experimental 80s melodies. They were doing stuff before other bands in the 80s were doing it.
Yeah.
And they definitely paved the way for some of the quintessential, and I say that with air quotes, 80s sounds. So what about you?
I thought what made them seem most unique was their approach to song structure, because it really is different.
Okay.
They do what they want. They don't follow that cookie cutter pattern. And you realize real quick that sometimes you don't want to be in a TP, or you don't want to be in a big abandoned mansion that you have to dust all the time. You want to live in one of those cookie cutter houses.
Okay.
And maybe it's just me.
Okay. That's fine.
And they lived all over the place in their discography.
Yes.
And it was nice to move around.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wanted more out of certain places that I was.
Yeah. How could this artist be most successful in the future?
By letting me mix a greatest hits album for them.
Okay.
That sounds really self-serving.
He'll drop his number and his email account. Good Lord. I said his email at the end of the episode.
I think the problem for me is the greatest hits is going to be one thing. It's going to focus on what was popular when this stuff came out. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole other side to this artist that I think most people haven't heard. You still have to do a lot of digging in their discography to get to all of the goods. And I would want people to hear that other side of what they have to offer.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't even fully cover this artist. There's a lot more albums that came out after Autoamerican, which was the last album that we covered. So they're going back in the jar, baby.
Yep. What about you?
I said participate in collaborations and further expand their sound to fit like the newer generation a little bit. Because I think that they could do some things with a lot of the tech-friendly sound that's going on today.
Yeah, that would be a decent fit. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Who would you recommend this artist to and why?
Most people, piggybacking off of my last answer, because there's plenty of unknown gold here.
I said anyone that appreciates early 80s female vocals, which I keep saying 80s, but when you think of Blondie, that's the era that you think of that's associated with her.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's because they were doing this, I think, before it was mainstream.
Yeah, I can't agree.
You have any optional discussion topics?
I will say that Blondie's getting a lot of attention nowadays because recently Miley Cyrus did a cover of Heart of Glass that a lot of people are freaking out over, which she performed it during like a live stream, so it's available on YouTube.
I'd actually like to hear that.
Okay, well there you go. She's got that gruff Miley Cyrus sound.
Yeah.
And she's like, I mean, if you know Miley Cyrus, like it's like over-sexualized performing of the song.
Yeah.
So it's getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people are now realizing where the song actually comes from, which Heart of Glass, most people can't understand it. Read the lyrics.
Like what's being said.
Yeah, especially in that those first couple lyrics. Other than that, Debbie Harry also came out with a book, and now I can't remember the name of it, but she came out with like a memoir that's doing fairly well. You can check that out as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Well, I wanted to mention that The Tide is High kind of drove me nuts. Because the sound was off-putting to me anyway. For some reason, it was like a love-hate sort of thing. But what really pushed me back from it is it sounds like something. And listeners, if you're out there, tell me what this sounds like. It's the end of the verse right before the chorus, like a pre-chorus. Whatever the vocal melody is right there, the closest I could come was We Go Together from Grease.
Okay.
There is something there that's either been used before or it was used after.
Okay, so I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, that I'm Not the Kind of Girl.
Yeah.
That part specifically. I'm trying to think of what that's from, because I think she sampled those lyrics and the melody from another song, and now I can't remember it. So yeah, please help us out.
Still driving me crazy right now.
Save us a little bit of the insanity, please.
Some other things about the artist is they did a lot of sci-fi lyrics, which I appreciated. It was not lyrically what I was anticipating in all places. That was a welcome change. Deeper than I was expecting, a lot more fun. Reminded me of some of what Lords of Acid do when they move away from the super sexual. Yeah. And they seem to reject their signature sound in places. That first album.
Yeah.
If it had been more of that first album throughout, I think I would have really loved this artist.
Okay.
But whatever it was, that beach rock punk combination, they do a lot of getting floaty and experimenting.
Well, I think that they changed their sound to that because they saw what was being successful with crowds at the time.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I think that they were kind of conforming their sound a little bit to fit the mainstream audience because, hey, people got to make a living. And apparently at one point they were completely broke. They were making music and were completely broke.
Easy to sit here like 40 years later and
talk
say,
about
hey,
yeah,
why did you change your sound? But that's all I have.
You ready to move on to the break?
I am. Let's take our break.
All right. Can I tell you, this whole week I've been trying to talk like Lola from Big Mouth.
Really?
I've been rewatching episodes of Big Mouth as I'm like painting. It's either that or listening to music. And I've been like talking like Lola. And I can't get it.
Wow.
I can't get it. I'm trying.
Wow.
Just to annoy my boyfriend.
We're never rested, by the way. We just sit here for 10 to 15 seconds and then start talking again.
We sit here awkwardly staring at each other like, okay, go now. Go, 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 go.
Do you have a song recommendation for the week?
I do. My friend Samantha showed me this artist. His name is Mike Snow, and that's Mike with 2 eyes. My song recommendation is My Trigger. He also has another song called Genghis Khan, which is Samantha's favorite. Well, what she showed me. But I prefer My Trigger.
Me too.
Oh, yeah?
But they're both good songs.
You prefer My Trigger better?
Yeah.
Yeah. It might have something to do with that sexualized video about like the peace treaties and war.
Haven't seen the video. I don't know.
Oh, watch the video. It's fun. Anyway.
You ever like throw a song out there from an artist that you've never listened to and you wonder...
No.
And you wonder, no, I mean, like, you know the one or the two songs,
Oh,
but
okay,
you don't
yeah.
know anything else. And somebody out there who is obsessed with this person's music is just raging.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you only know the one song? Like,
Yes.
hey, we're trying to get people to listen to this person's
Yes.
music.
And one of the whole reasons why we're doing this is we're looking to expand our musical horizons. If there's somebody that you want us to listen to and that you give two shits about, maybe suggest them.
Yeah.
That's always a possibility.
This was a discovery week from hell for me. I'd never sat down with any of this.
Yep. So yeah, my song suggestion is My Trigger by Mike Snow.
Mine was Jack Garrett's Surprise Yourself. This one's got a really moving music video that was sent to me by a friend who knows I struggle quietly with the darkness. For whatever it's worth, when I start work on the next novel, this track will be on my mind. I recommend if you're out there and you're having a tough week or a tough year or a tough decade,
as we all are.
2020 has been multiple decades. Just go watch this video. It will make you feel better. Even if it makes you cry, it's going to make you feel better. That's Jack Garrett's Surprise Yourself. Plug.
Speaking of the novel, I want to go ahead and properly thank you for now giving me a reason to form a very tiny book club.
You formed a book club?
Not really. But we do sit around and discuss your book.
Oh. That's
Toby,
terrifying.
one of our listeners, and I are both reading Hopeless Oceans. I'm a little bit ahead of him, but we've both started reading it and now started talking about the situations that your many characters get in and the synopsis of your book and the character traits of each character, which there's a shit ton.
Sorry, not sorry.
So we actually had a pretty engaging discussion about that last night. So I wanted to thank you for giving me the gift of conversation as well as letting my imagination run rampant.
Well, you're welcome.
So
it's always nice to hear something. I did spend about a full year working on this exclusively, and
yeah,
I'm happy with it. I'm proud it's out there. Otherwise, it would seem like a waste of time.
I cannot say too much about the book because I don't want to give anything away. But he came guns blazing with situations and scenarios that these characters get into. I'm not even halfway through the book. I think I'm maybe a little over a quarter of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus Christ. Wow.
I told you it was a ride.
Also, reading a sex scene that's written by your cousin.
What the fuck?
Toby and I talked about that. I said, can I say how awkward it is to read a book that your cousin wrote and there's a sex scene in it? And I'm just like I'm internally we make jokes about the incest thing, but I promise there's no incestual things going on here.
Well, if it makes you feel better, it is awkward to write scenes for people that you aren't, because I'm not these characters, but I feel connected to these characters. So to write that for them and you're not, it's really weird.
Mm-hmm. I'm making it sound like your book is over eroticized, and no, it's not. There are sex scenes because it's a coming of age tale about a lot of different characters, and guess what? Teenagers be fucking, so that happens.
Yes, it does.
But a lot of the hardships that they have to go through, it's some heavy shit. Sometimes I don't want to compare it to this, but sometimes I feel like I'm reading a Degrassi book.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And
that shit is real.
I tried to hit the nail on the head right away on the dedications page in the introduction, saying, just so you know, I was in a bad place. Mm-hmm. So my give a shit was busted and I threw everything at the wall.
Well, it's nice that...
No apologies.
It's nice that you didn't sugarcoat anything for the sake of sheltering your readers from the truth that this shit happens every day.
Yeah. And
not a lot of people want to talk about it because guess what? It's not polite. It's not happy, but it still happens to those that read it and have gone through situations like this. I think it'll be refreshing to see the development of the characters after they've gone through it. So you're smirking at me right now. You want to elaborate? Or?
No,
okay.
I want to get to my plug.
Okay. Is it Hopeless Oceans?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to plug my... No.
Okay.
I wanted to plug Chrissy Teigen's cookbook, her second, I believe. It's Cravings, Hungry for More. Mm-hmm. I bought it last week. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't made a whole lot out of it, but
what have you made out of it?
Stuff.
You're not going to tell us?
I have a note here about the banana bread recipe, which I had done before I owned the book. I read an article on this banana bread recipe, and then I went ahead and made it, and I made it again, having tweaked some things, and then got her actual cookbook in the mail, and my tweaks are there.
Okay.
Like the real recipe.
Nice.
Yes, accounted for those things.
I ain't never had your banana bread.
I know. You're going to before long, though.
Okay.
It's part of the Christmas packages that I'm putting together.
You're putting Christmas packages. I thought that everybody was just going to get...
I wanted to eventually do the family recipe cookbook thing for everyone, but I'm not there yet. Been a hell of a year, and I just wanted to make some wine and some cider and some sauces and other baked goods, and that's where it's going.
Well, in the meantime...
and probably won't even see people this holiday season. But...
yeah, that's true. I'll stick to my contributions of baked mac and cheese and breakfast casserole, although I do have, not that you'll appreciate this, a pretty decent stuffed mushroom recipe now.
God damn it. My brain was processing that shit slowly, and I just realized you were talking about that fucking breakfast casserole.
What about it?
It just instantly made me hungry.
See, my sister came over this past week, and out of nowhere, I'm in the kitchen, and she goes, man, you need to invite us over and make that breakfast casserole. And I said, you know how easy that shit is to do?
Yeah.
I was like, I'll literally write down the recipe and give it to you. Like, costs nothing.
I've thought on occasion of talking more about Good Mythical Morning, both good and bad.
Okay.
The one thing I did want to bring up before we move on to the next artist, they do an episode of microwave versus oven baked foods. God. And I thought, okay, this is pointless. Everything is better in the oven.
Yes.
I mean, we microwave pizza rolls around here, and I could take them either way. I don't care.
Crisp.
Yes. Crisp is good. The soft is nice sometimes too. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because they got to tater tots, and putting a plate of tater tots in the microwave for 3.5 minutes, life-changing.
I promised I would not take away any joy that this world has given you this year. So I'm going to refrain from commenting. But I will say, you did not tell me that this very late night, early morning craving, because didn't you say it was like at 3:30? Was that in the morning or the afternoon?
No, you cook it for 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh! I never know with you because you're a night owl.
Right.
But you did not tell me it was a Good Mythical Morning inspired craving.
I just thought you knew.
No, well, yeah, we were talking about it. But I also, you were drinking. We were both doing ratings. I was not drinking. So I didn't know. See, obviously, I didn't know you were supposed to put it on for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I was very confused during a little bit of our conversation that night.
But if you've ever tried the frozen tater tots, they kind of taste like shit.
Okay.
No, you can almost taste that they've been in a freezer, right? It's like the ice crystals or the water is still there in a bad way, and you season them and they taste decent, but they're never going to be like they are out of a fryer. This shit made them taste like hash browns.
Yeah.
From, a fast food joint or something. They're moist and I said the word that I'm not supposed to say, and now no one's going to try the microwave tater tots.
Well, I said that I thought that they tasted, well, I haven't tried them, but I told you that I would imagine that they would taste like wet hash browns. These wet ass hash browns.
The outside really does hold everything together in a good way.
Wah, not wop. Wah, wet ass hash browns.
I saw, was it a meme? There's a conversation back and forth between a kid and their parent. And the mother was complaining, asking the kid, why did you tell me that WAP stood for wings and pizza? We just threw a fucking party and had people over. We invited them to the WAP party and couldn't understand why people were declining.
Hey, if I showed up, I would not be disappointed. I'm expecting WAP and I'm getting wings and pizza. I still would not be disappointed.
Speaking of WAP, my friends Austin and Codes are back at it after a temporary hiatus. And they do touch on WAP in their most recent episode. So go give that a listen. We've been rambling. Let's move on to the next artist.
All right. All right, Shane, who is the next artist that we covered this week?
The Clash
And that was suggested by
Neil Ryan.
So thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through and list the albums that we covered by The Clash?
I do.
All right.
And we need to make note that when he does come on, because we will have him on.
Yes.
This was not like a back out or a no-show or anything like that.
No.
He had a genuine health concern. And I want to know specifically why The Clash, because we've never talked about The Clash. And so I still want to have that conversation, even though his artists will have to be different next time.
I can see or hear comparisons in their sounds a little bit.
Yep.
So in my personal opinion, I can see why he would have chosen this artist. Now, I'm surprised he didn't choose other artists, but it's a good thing that he's going to be on later.
And the thing about the 3 songs that he has up on Spotify right now with the Mistreated, they're different stylistically,
yes,
musical themes. So who knows?
Yes.
I haven't heard too much of his music, but I suspect there's a lot of range there.
Yes.
And maybe this is part of that we just haven't heard as much.
There are things that I wanted to say about his music, good, positive things.
Yeah.
Comparisons that I wanted to make, which hopefully would not insult him. It's a compliment in my opinion, but I'm going to save those for when I get to meet him in person.
The one thing I will say is we had 2 fairly punk artists this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I consistently kept going between albums as like a palate cleanser, but it's also got that punk rockabilly thing going on.
Yes.
I kept going and listening to Starlight Black. I've made no secret of the fact that I really, really like that song.
And I went and listened to What the Darkness Brings. So,
which you should have heard anyway because it's on my novel playlist right at the beginning.
It is. So
fun story before we get going. We were on the road in Montana and the iPad was shuffling while we were listening to music, and Starlight Black came on. And when it was done, Taylor, who we can't get to listen to anything but like Britney Spears and the Spice Girls and Taylor Swift and be excited about any of that, when that song was over, again.
Aww.
And I think there was a night when he was smaller and we were listening to one of the earlier AFI CDs.
Mm-hmm.
It's very gothic punk, but I think that energy, that experience, it really hit home on Starlight Black for him. Anyway, let's move on to The Clash.
More information about Neil Ryan to come at a later episode. So trust me, we got plenty to say. First album
was The Clash from 1977. This album was my top album.
This fell in the middle for me.
I gave it 7 5s.
I gave it 2.
My top track was Cheat.
My top track was Career Opportunities.
I like that.
Yeah.
Bottom track was Remote Control.
My bottom track was London's Burning.
Next album was Give 'Em Enough Rope from 1978. This was next to last for me.
This was my runner-up.
I gave it 5 5s.
I gave it 3 5s.
My top track was Drug Stabbing Time.
My top track was Safe European Home.
Yeah. Bottom track was Julie's Been Working for the Drug Squad.
That was in the running for my top. I think I gave that one a 5.
The thing about this album is I put next to last, but it's all 4s and 5s. There are just fewer tracks here than there are on the other albums.
Oh boy, yeah.
This was most definitely a punk classic, and I love it. What was your bottom?
My bottom was English Civil War.
Moving on to the next album, which was London Calling from 1979. This was a double disc. It fell in the middle for me.
This was my top album.
I gave it 13 5s.
I only gave it 5 5s.
My top track, I feel silly, but I'm just being honest. Like,
okay.
I love the punk nature of their music. That's what I tend to gravitate toward.
Mm-hmm.
But Lost in the Supermarket.
I gave that one a 5 too.
Yeah.
My top track, though, was London Calling.
Okay. Bottom?
The Guns of Brixton.
Same.
So this album art, which is probably more well known, was actually a ripoff of the Elvis rock and roll cover.
Oh, okay.
So instead of that black and white of like them smashing the guitar, same text and everything, it was actually a black and white photo of Elvis that they just switched out and changed the wording to their stuff. So yeah.
I like the coloration.
So did I, like that pink and green.
So that's why you went looking to try to, or did you just stumble across that?
I just stumbled across it. I'm facts girl, man.
Okay.
I do my research.
Okay. Well, while we're on the topic of facts, this is I don't remember whose list it was. It's a major music outlet. They had it at number 8 for the top, I don't know.
Albums of all time.
Yeah.
Yep. I found that out too.
And I would very much have to agree with that. While this was in the middle for me, as far as consistency goes, this had my highest average.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Next album was Sandinista from 1980. This was a 3-disc album, and it fell at the bottom for me.
It fell at the bottom for me too.
My top track was Somebody Got Murdered.
My top track was Up in Heaven, Not Only Here.
Okay. What about your bottom?
Career Opportunities.
The one with the kid vocal?
Yes.
Okay.
And not to say that I don't love children, but when I listen to the original Career Opportunities on The Clash's first album, and then they redo it for the Sandinista album, and it's just kids singing it, not singing it well, there's a level of disappointment there for me.
Yeah.
I gave it 3 5s.
I gave it 12.
Well, okay. There are 36 tracks on this album, so it makes sense that you would give it 12.
This is true. My bottom track was The Equalizer, by the way.
Okay.
And I did like a lot of this, so being at the bottom is not a bad thing. Clearly, 12 5s on the 3 discs. That's a third of the material. I can say it got weirder as you went from disc to disc.
I have a lot to say about this album. And Shane got to play God a little bit because as we were listening to this music, like I said, we had a conversation Saturday night when we were covering The Clash at the same time.
We don't talk about our feelings at all.
No.
But earlier in the week, you had sent me a message and said, "What's with the 36 track album?" And I had to explain, I didn't know what you were talking about because I wasn't there yet. So I thought you'd already done this.
No. I have to look things up on Wikipedia to make sure that they're spelled right and the years are right because I do a post of what albums we're going to cover.
Yeah.
And I saw that this one was 36, which I have no reason to even say anything about the amount of tracks because I gave Shane the White Album the previous week, which was 30 tracks by the Beatles. So I was just confused because I kept scrolling down on Wikipedia and it was like side 1, side 2. Side 3, side 4. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But I have more to say about this album.
Me too. We'll get there.
Moving on.
Last album we covered was Combat Rock from 1982. This is the one that most people are probably going to know or be familiar with. It had their biggest hits on it, which were...
Should I Stay or Should I Go?
And Rock the Casbah.
Rock the Casbah.
This was my runner-up.
This was my second to last.
I gave it 5 5s.
I gave it 2 5s.
My top track was Ghetto Defendant.
My top track was Should I Stay or Should I Go?
My bottom track was Sean Flynn.
My bottom track was Death is a Star.
Okay. I went back and forth between those two for bottom track. And I really hated to say that Sean Flynn was my bottom track because in doing some reading and even listening to the song, I knew there was going to be a group of listeners who are fans of this group that really appreciate this song. Mm-hmm. I'm just not that person.
Okay.
I do like more of the energetic, cheat, drug stabbing time.
Yeah.
Somebody Got Murdered.
Yeah, that's totally you.
Some of my other top tracks, right?
Yeah.
But my top track on this album was reggae, essentially.
Yes, it was.
Which we should cover the questionnaire and then see if there's anything about their sound that we've not touched on already, okay?
Okay.
So let's go through, what was your weirdest track?
The entire Sandinista collection.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. I still gave it 3 5s, but as a whole, yeah, that album, it got a little weird.
Okay.
Which I'm not knocking the weirdness. This isn't what was your bottom tracks.
No,
this is weird because you come out of London Calling and you're used to that punk sound with maybe I think they started to hint at the reggae influences, and then you jump over to Sandinista and you get reggae, you get disco, you get country,
you get jazz,
big band, R&B,
new wave.
It gets different.
Rockabilly.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I have probably heard that 70s boo 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 more in Sandinista than I probably have heard in other classic 70s albums.
You brought the White Album up, and that's what came to mind as I was going back through Sandinista.
Okay.
Because there was so much stylistic variety on the White Album. This topped that.
Mm-hmm.
This was the most eclectic CD I've ever heard in my life.
And they needed 36 tracks to
Yeah.
properly cover it.
I think the only thing that even comes close would be the White Album by the Beatles or Wyclef Jean's The Eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wild. My weirdest track comes from Sandinista. It's early on. I gave it a 5. It's called Junko Partner.
Mm-hmm.
One of the weirdest, wildest, strangest things I've ever heard.
Okay.
That track is a hint of things to come. It feels like a combination of everything you're going to get across the 3 discs.
Okay.
What was your best title?
The Sound of Sinners.
That's good.
You?
I'm so bored with the USA.
Oh, damn.
I don't hate the USA. Just
I know.
to be clear.
What was your worst title?
One More Dub. I would have called it One More Time Karaoke Edition.
I said Lose This Skin. What I would have called it is Country Bjork.
That's fair, though.
If Tiny Tim and Bjork had a baby.
You've got to quit using Tiny Tim as a reference point. In no way across the 8 discs of The Clash that we listened to this week did I ever think Tiny Tim.
Go back and listen to that song. If Tiny Tim and Bjork had a baby and that baby made a country song, that would be Lose This Skin.
If your dad comes back on and there's another something I won't listen to that infects the show the way Tiny Tim has done,
We're quitting?
he's like that tickle in your chest that won't go away and you keep coughing.
I was just talking about the Great Balls of Fire cover that Tiny Tim did the other day to my sister.
What did you think was the Clash's... I can't even talk. What did you think was the Clash's strongest element?
Being so versatile and fearless with sound experimentation.
Yeah. I think their goal was to prove that punk could be so much more than what it had been made out to be or the reputation that it had. Really appreciated it. But my strongest element for them was that warm analog tape presence in their recordings. You just don't get that sound in a lot of mainstream recordings these days.
Yeah.
It never gets old. It's like listening to a vinyl record, but you're listening
There you go.
to MP3s.
Now you got me.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say their weakest element is?
A small amount of experimental vocal mixing. The thing we talked about with Third Eye Blind and the few tracks where they do the vocals going forward and back and making it sound like they echo or they're just not as forward in the mix. That happened on occasion, and I think that's where Third Eye Blind, like that's what they were trying to do, was recreate a little of this fire, but it didn't feel like fire to me. It felt like a fizzle.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy it so much. You?
I said sticking to one riff and a sequence of beats in songs, so it felt a little repetitive.
That's fair.
Which some punk songs sound a little one note. Yeah,
and you also have to think about we've been listening to 30 years of punk that's come since.
Yes, we're not trying to trigger anybody with what we're saying. You have to, in order for you to properly gauge and compare your opinion to ours, listen to these 5 albums back to back to back to back.
8.
Well, yeah, 8.
Listen to these 8 discs.
Yeah, because they're double albums. But yeah, listen to these, and then just to better gauge your opinion, see what we went through.
What did you think they sounded like?
I said a mixture of the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, Mighty Mighty Bosstones, and Bob Marley.
All right. I said a punk band that they sounded like a punk band that hired on Bob Marley and one or more of the Beatles.
Okay. They got Ringo.
I don't know that they got Ringo. So sometimes, sure, but it felt like all of them.
Look, guys, look what I did. We're putting it right up on the fridge.
You need to quit. There was a lot of good shit here.
When would you listen to them, or how does the music make you feel? And for the record, I am not saying that I didn't enjoy The Clash. A level of fun always should be had when covering these artists.
Yeah, and I would have originally said that Ringo was your favorite Beatle before I thought about it a little more in depth. So I think it's fair to say you appreciated what you were listening to.
Yes.
I would listen to this music primarily when playing a game like Tony Hawk. That was actually my gauge this week for most of my listening experience was if I'm playing a video game like that, is it something I want playing in my headphones at the same time?
Which for you OG listeners that have been with us since the first episode, that used to be one of our questionnaire questions. And I always really enjoyed that question.
What's that?
Would this artist, what song could feature on a gaming soundtrack?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was in the early portions of the questionnaire. We've since evolved since then.
Yes, we have.
But
hang on. I'm not done.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The music makes me feel like I should be at a bar with friends. So I think those two things, you want to listen to this when you're playing sports type video games, fun, and then it'll make you feel like you should be out with friends having a good time.
At a pub.
Yeah, at a pub.
Less. I said, this music makes me feel like I'm bouncing between different nightclubs at very different times.
Yeah.
Think Nightmare Before Christmas door situation.
They let you into the jazz club, no reservation needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you walk through another door and you're in like Studio 54. And then you walk through another door and you're like in a piss and shit covered nightclub where they're moshing and people are getting hurt. And it is so different. And you can hear touches of all of these different genres in this music.
A very, very fun way to spend an evening.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Bouncing from room to room?
Yeah. Have you never gone like bar hopping like that or club hopping?
No. I'm boring. I entered the elevator to hell, and that's the most exciting thing that I've ever done in my life.
I didn't even think of that as like a big deal until afterward.
We had no idea where that was going, dude.
Okay.
Anyway, what was your first or best experience with this artist?
My first that I really remember is the London Calling song playing in that scene from Billy Elliot. You'd have to see it to know. But yeah, it really turned me on to their music. And so I knew more of this than I should, but I'd never really sat down with all of the albums. Anyway, what about you?
I said, a little bit of backstory. In high school, we had to create a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation mapping out the specifics of like planning a trip abroad. And I picked London for where I would go. And I
see where this is going.
The entire PowerPoint presentation was set to the song London Calling. And I remember going through the presentation, which that presentation was bomb. I definitely deserve that A. Anyway.
So in love with your shit that you did.
Anyway, the biggest compliment is my English teacher that gave us the assignment at the time. He was like, wow, you know The Clash? And I'm like, yeah, I know The Clash. Yeah, I'm totally ahead of my age group and I have such an old soul. And he was like, that was the moment that he respected me as an individual rather than like a student. So
he walked away like, this bitch don't listen to Sandinista. I know she don't.
So, yeah, and I wasn't at the time, but I am now. So, hey, Mr. Chambers, I can talk to you about The Clash now. Moving on. Who would you want them to collaborate with, and what song would you like them to cover?
I'd like them to have collaborated with Tommy James and the Shondells. Sounds are slightly different, but I know a lot of people have no idea who Tommy James and the Shondells even are. But if you sat down to listen to the music, you would know it. It's the group that originally did the song that Tiffany made popular.
Think We're Alone Now.
Yep.
Look at me.
Also did Crystal Blue Persuasion and Crimson and Clover, and fantastic group. And I think it would have been
that would be good.
Yeah.
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 You say Crimson and Clover and I immediately know what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, that really would be a good cover.
I'm telling you. And the song I would want them to cover together would be Paintbox by Pink Floyd. It's on the Relics album. Paintbox. Yeah. Go check it out.
Paintbox. Okay.
You?
I don't think you're ready for this, man.
I'm done arguing about what I'm ready for because you've proven me wrong. I think that's your goal now.
To emit a shock
response. Yeah.
I said that I would want them to collaborate with Sister Sledge. For those of you that don't know, Sister Sledge sings He's the Greatest Dancer.
I think that could work.
They're a 70s artist, and I would love them to cover Young Hearts Run Free. Sorry. I love that song. It's off of...
You love it from Romeo and Juliet.
I do. I love it individually by Candy Stanton.
Okay.
So Ha in your face.
So Ha in my face.
Young Hearts Run Free is what I want them to cover. Not saying it's going to be good. Can't promise that, but it will definitely be interesting.
Yeah.
Could ruin that song for me, but hey, who cares?
Nah.
Anyway.
I don't think that's ever happened. Has that ever happened for you? You hear a cover and then you just
No.
can't listen to the song anymore?
I'll prefer one over the other, but it doesn't make me want to go, I'm never listening to this song ever again.
It's really strange too, because I've always said that people that get really pissed off about covers and remakes and everything, it doesn't bother me because the original is still there or the version that I like still exists. So why do I care? But I'm getting older now and I'm starting to have that response.
Yeah.
Like they were talking about remaking The Warriors. Please don't. Like
You can't.
Every now and then I have that response. I think it could be really good. Disney lately is probably why, because they're doing all the live action.
Speaking of, I haven't watched Mulan.
I haven't seen it yet either.
But I did watch Maleficent this past week.
Yeah.
Which Maleficent is a good example of don't remake a movie that has already been done, like cartoonified and make it live action. Expand on the story and characters that are already there that we don't know about. Give them a backstory and expand on that.
It's weird too because their reactions are all over the map. Like there are certain live action films that I've hated or I've loved and other people have had the opposite response.
I didn't hate Beauty and the Beast.
No, I liked that a lot.
But I love Emma.
Same.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. She can do no wrong.
I was going to love it to begin with.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, getting back to the questionnaire.
Yes.
What makes this artist seem unique?
Well, without even really needing to answer, we were talking about The Clash and wound up talking about Disney. So you think of a punk band and we somehow got to Disney. It really lets you know what you're in for. The uniqueness factor for me was the way they fuse reggae, country, jazz with punk and all of the other music stylings that you're going to find.
Yeah, don't go into this artist thinking that they're going to be one note and you're only going to get one sound from them. Because if you do, you might want to prepare for whiplash because that's definitely not what you're going to get.
Yeah, so much more than what you probably heard on the radio.
I said their raw punk sounds and their versatility. What?
Something just occurred to me.
What?
So part of the whiplash from this week, I didn't know I liked Rock the Casbah as much as I do,
okay.
Right? But when you think about that song, I used to get it confused a lot with Pass the Dutchie.
Okay.
What is it? Musical Youth or whatever?
Yes.
And you think about they really do cross over into that Pass the Dutchie sound.
Now that you know that they experimented with a lot of those reggae sounds, it makes a lot more sense.
Now that I no longer confuse them, I feel like I should confuse them.
Yes, even more.
Yeah.
How could this artist be most successful in the future?
Have Rockstar Games make a Warriors 2.
Yeah?
With an all-Clash soundtrack. They'd
Especially
really
when
fit
it
that
comes
video
to
game model.
Different characters. I said dial it back and focus on your punk rock strengths. Because I think ultimately that's where listeners were pulled in.
Which was my reaction to Blondie. And I wonder if gender plays any role here.
Gender always plays a role.
Well, yeah, but I don't...
It shouldn't, but it does.
I don't know if I was turned off of certain Blondie because I couldn't relate to it as a heterosexual male or whatever, you know.
If that's the case, I should identify more with her than The Clash.
Yeah,
I don't think your musical preference is sexist.
It doesn't. I'm running through stuff in my head that doesn't make any sense.
It's fine. A lot of the time I don't make sense either, but you put up with my strange ass.
We'll just start getting on here and going blah, 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 blah. What did you
Who would you recommend this artist to and why?
People who think punk has nothing to offer them for the obvious reason that there's plenty more here than what you think punk is.
I said anyone wanting to better familiarize themselves with those that greatly contributed to the British invasion.
Yeah.
Because they were a big old part of it.
Yep.
Any optional?
It was awesome.
The British invasion? Invasion and New Wave. Like, I would say that The Clash even contributed to the New Wave sound.
Yeah.
Especially with that Sandinista album.
One of the things that I've always meant to do and have yet to is get really deep into punk because I've always loved it.
I can't wait to walk in and you have a little mini mohawk and like piercings hanging out of your face.
Oh, I mean, just listening. I listen to a lot of country, but you don't see me in the hat and the boots
Explain
and
the
stuff.
guitar, sir.
Pardon?
Explain that.
Okay. She's making fun of me. I get it. Optional discussion topics.
I wanted to say that their song Straight to Hell, the intro of that song, was sampled in the Paper Planes by MIA, for those of you that don't know, which makes sense because MIA came from England.
Yeah, which that song was, the Paper Planes sample was sampled in, what is it, T.I.'s Swagger Like Us? I think
You lost me.
Eminem and Kanye, and there's somebody else there. Oh, that makes me feel so stupid. You don't know Swagger Like Us?
Maybe.
No One on the Corner has?
Yes, I know that, but I know it from MIA.
It samples Paper Planes.
She says that in her song.
I know. They sample that track
no.
by her to make their own rap song.
Nope, I don't know that. God, that look.
I had a note here about Straight to Hell as well.
Okay.
We didn't get to cover this week the Crickets cover they did of I Fought the Law, but it's really good.
And the Law one.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. I was leaving I did do a little bit of research, and I could just list off a bunch of facts, but I was going to leave it up to Neil since it was his pick. I will say that they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think a year after the lead singer, Joe Strummer. It was a year after he passed, so he didn't actually get to relish.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
He knew.
But that's all I have to say about the Clash.
Okay.
Give them a listen. They're definitely a band of versatility, and if I have to describe them in a word, it's definitely fearless. They did not give a shit about what people wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted to do what they wanted to do, and you can tell that they were inspired by a lot of different genres and people.
They also wanted to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. No holds barred. Mm-hmm. Say whatever the hell you want. Mm-hmm. Loved it. I made a note that their greatest hits album does exist, but I think it could be better.
Okay.
So do yourself the favor of not going out and listening to their greatest hits album. Maybe don't even go digging, but you might find more that you love here than I did. If you're into, I don't like jazz unless it's live most of the time. It really is hard for me to just sit and listen to jazz. Mm-hmm. And so I got a lot of not loving it vibes in some of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
They do touches of jazz. They touch on jazz.
You might want to listen to all of this just because a lot of people will take more enjoyment away from some stuff that we didn't necessarily like. Mm-hmm. But going to our Fives playlists on Spotify is definitely a good way to introduce yourself to the best of the best and then jump in further.
Yes.
I don't know that the greatest hits is going to do more than offer what you're expecting.
Yeah, like Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Yeah.
White Riot, like things that you hear on the radio.
Yes.
But as we've stated in past episodes, just because it's on the radio doesn't mean it's the best of what artists have to offer.
Definitely not. I'm actually convinced that a lot of artists will put their worst song on the radio.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like if they're already big.
Why not?
I'm already rich. Let's give people something that's half-assed. And when they actually go get the album, just magic. Anyway, I made note that the best track for a music video game, in my opinion, would be Police on My Back. There was a track called Mensforth Hill, but I was listening to it, and it occurred to me that you could probably listen to this backwards, and it might make more sense. And of course you can, and I read about that. So I went to YouTube and I listened to it backwards, and I'll put that on our mentions playlist. Cool. It's still weird as hell. Both versions have merit, though. And the song Something About England really reminded me of I Don't Like Monday by the Boomtown Rats.
I have no idea what you're you might as well have been talking French just then. Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's up your alley. I thought you would know that for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Speaking of that, did you listen to Baby Let Me Take You in My Arms?
Nope.
Okay. Just asking.
I listened to your Hurdy-Gurdy Man song.
I know you did, and you felt the need to comment on it. Your opinion has not changed.
It wasn't bad. It was better than the other Donovan songs I know.
To quote you, you said you'd rather listen to Tiny Tim.
That's true.
Okay. So.
You make that sound like a bad thing, And in most places, I would agree. You take a lot of the stuff that I've heard from Tiny Tim so far.
Mm-hmm.
No, I did kind of like Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Okay. I don't hate Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
Your dad no longer respects me.
I know.
I'm right there with Logan. I didn't love it.
I think you like it for the sake, it's the inner troll in you, though. You like it for the same reason that I do.
Is it not?
It's not
is
easy
it not
listening
normal?
music.
Is it not normal for people to want to compile like this list of weird fucking shit? Like, I've got a ridiculous jams playlist because every now and then
I know. I have
just
it on a
want
CD.
something-
I have a nonsense playlist that's literally got like a lot of those goofy artists or like weird, like it's got Lonely Island, it's got Tenacious D in there, Double Team. Man, I'd like to place my, like, it's got some weird shit.
there's a difference between a fun, stupid track and something that's just horrible. The closest I come,
The vacuum cleaner.
no, it's not the vacuum cleaner. It's the one that y'all always harp on me for is William Hung with I Believe I Can Fly. That cover.
You go into it expecting the I Believe I Can Fly song and William Hung, I do the thing. And I'm like, God damn it, Shane. Like, that's how you rickroll people.
I am so impressed, though. And I'm not kidding. I know everyone thinks this is one of my jokes and that I'm kidding. I am genuinely impressed by the dude's confidence. He thinks he's fucking killing it.
Is it like the 20, is it 21 guy? The 20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His shit, it's enjoyable too. You can't even laugh at that stuff genuinely. Like, you couldn't hurt someone's feelings by laughing at them because they love what they do.
They're impervious to embarrassment.
They're happy to just be
Okay.
loving what they're capable of, even if it's not.
I'm all for people doing their thing if it makes them happy. I'm just saying there is a level of trolliness there that will always be there.
I do troll with Hung's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I definitely do it with that one.
And Sacha Baron Cohen's Money's on the Dresser.
My wife likes that song. The one from that soundtrack, from the Dictator soundtrack, is the cover of REM's Everybody Hurts. That's done in the foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's supposed to be trolly.
Okay.
And now I'm sitting over here thinking about Borat 2 coming out.
Maybe that's something that we can cover in a future episode is like trolliest songs or what, top 10 nonsense songs.
Let me come at y'all with that.
So just to put a pin in that.
And I think I'm almost certain actually that you have held back for the duration of your life. You still have things in the closet that you have not sprung on me. So we'll see.
Okay. We shall see.
I mean, I just found a rediscovered Tarzan boy last year, so.
Whoa.
Come on now.
And then that's like, wasn't it at one point we would send that song to each other? I know it was like our cabin song at one point.
Yeah, your dad turned it on at the cabin is what it was. And I immediately was,
look.
I know this. Why is this addictive to me?
It's a good song.
Jungle Life. Who won the week for you?
Blondie.
Blondie won.
Blondie won. It was semi-close. I think I gave Blondie a 3.5 and The Clash got a 3.1. Who won for you?
The Clash.
Was it close?
I was curious because it's the number of fives that take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the math to dial them down to 5 CDs and how many fives they would have and what their purchase value would be. In every single category, even after the adjustments, it was The Clash.
My average
This was a fantastic group to sit down and listen to.
My average for Blondie was higher. But when it comes to the amount of fives that were given to both artists, The Clash won by 1 5.
Nice.
But average usually beats it for me. So Blondie won, but I also think that it's a female vocalist. See, and now I sound sexist. I think that I could identify more.
It's not sexism. It's the ability to relate. You probably have an easier time singing the stuff than I would. I'll have an easier time with The Clash.
Yeah.
And Blondie was great.
Yeah. I enjoyed both artists a lot. It's just the way the numbers fell and my ratings. So, but yeah, Blondie took it for me this week.
Cool.
You ready to move on?
We finally had another little disagreement, a clash, if you will, in our winners. I made the joke this time. It's always you.
Yeah, usually.
Moving on to the second half of our list, what do you have for your sixth pick, Rayburn?
Devil Woman by Cliff Richard.
Another one I've never heard.
Okay, I know you didn't like Devon. You will like Cliff Richard. I stand by it. If you don't, I promise I will never recommend another song to you again. I think you will. Anyway,
Okay.
What's your next pick?
Next pick for me is Spill My Blood by 3-6 Mafia. Every now and then they do something Halloweenish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really creepy, and it does remind me of being in middle school.
That's a horrific time within itself.
If I had some time to sit down and think about stories, yeah, we'd probably be saying more here than I should ever about my time in middle school and some of the stuff that went on. But I will leave it at Spill My Blood by 3-6 Mafia is a good Halloween song. What's your next pick?
Coming Undone by Korn. It's always on my Halloween mixes. I like Korn all year round.
Me too. With cream cheese and bacon, you know.
God dang it. I was trying to come up with a joke, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm keto now. I'm not technically supposed to eat corn.
Get it corn. I like it popped. I like it in bread.
You like it in bread?
Cornbread.
Oh.
Hello.
I'm sitting here thinking this motherfucker is scooping kernel corn on some white ass bread.
No, but I did have some cornbread recently from Cotton Patch.
Mm-hmm.
That's got the corn and the jalapenos in it, and they give you that honey butter.
Oh, yeah.
You take a bite and you feel like you just gained a pound.
We're supposed to be getting our YouTube bodies ready, and you're over here talking about cornbread.
Sorry.
Stop. I'm trying to be good. What's your next pick?
You shouldn't have told me that.
What?
Because now the troll in me really wants to come out as we move forward.
With food?
Yeah.
My will is not strong, Shane.
My next pick is Monster by Kanye West, featuring a whole handful of people. I think it's Rick Ross and Nicki Minaj. Is Jay-Z in that song? I want to say he is. Pretty sure. Anyway, it's a good Halloween song. What's your next pick?
I love that this list was on the fly. I love it because you're just like, that's all I got to say about that. Moving on. Anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to sound like a dick.
But you are.
But I am. Since Shane took my I Put a Spell on You by Marilyn Manson, I decided to add an additional song in case we had any repeats. And this song is Feed My Frankenstein by Alice Cooper. Any lover of Wayne's World will know why, because he performs this song in the first Wayne's World. We Are Not Worthy, Alice Cooper. What's your next pick?
It's I-E-Y-E.
Okay.
One word.
Okay.
It's not called I-E-Y-E. It's the
I-E-Y-E.
It's the word I.
Okay.
By the Smashing Pumpkins. That is always on my Halloween mixes.
I have not heard of this song by the Pumpkins. I-E-Y-E.
I think this one was from the Lost Highway soundtrack. Could be wrong. And I'm pretty sure Manson's I Put a Spell on You is from that too. The Lost Highway soundtrack is great for Halloween.
I am seeing the cover right now. It's a movie, right?
Yeah.
Never seen the movie.
I've never seen the movie either.
But I can tell you exactly what it looks like. What's up with
there's
that?
Some 9 Inch Nails and Rammstein on there, and it is perfect.
All promising artists to have on a soundtrack, by the way.
It's great.
My next pick is Special Death by Mariah. That's M-I-R-A-I. Oh my God. I just had a stroke, as Blue would say. M-I-R-A-H. This was in American Horror Story, the first season, Murder House.
That's Marah, by the way. That's the artist I've been telling you to go listen to the sweepstakes prize.
Oh! Okay. Didn't know that. Now I know that.
Just sharing.
I do know something by Marah. I always just thought it was like Mariah.
And what was it again?
Special Death.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get what I'm talking about. Okay. Moving on.
Next one for me is Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players. This one, you wouldn't know if you were just hearing it for the first time. I don't think it's going to make sense as a Halloween song. It's like saying that...
I know exactly why you picked it.
Yeah, it's because of the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There's a hidden scream in the song that is supposed to be coming from either the booth over or inside of like the sound mixing booth. You tell the story.
I don't know that I know the story correctly. I know I
don't know if I do either.
They were recording in the studio, and next door, a lady was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of talk of that actually showing up in the mix, her screams. I don't buy it. I mean, you hear the the vocal thing that's done right at the start of the song too.
I have always heard the story is it's the girl that posed on the album cover dripping honey on herself. And apparently she had like a bad allergic reaction or she was pissed off about something and money. And she went to talk to like the record label and she was pissed off and was killed.
I heard she was axe murdered in the adjacent room.
Oh, okay.
But I have not gone and read about any of this, so this is just what people are telling me. Or depending on who you talk to, this is just me blowing things out of proportion because I can.
If your story is different from ours, please. We would love to hear all the assumptions about what actually happened.
And if you want to hear the non-scary version of that from the Beavis and Butthead Do America soundtrack...
Stop it.
The Chili Peppers version of Love Roller Coaster is my favorite.
It's a good version.
What's your next pick?
My last pick is Haunted by Evanescence. No real explanation needed, but...
It kind of explains itself, huh?
A little tidbit of information about me. I saw Evanescence perform at Six Flags before they were famous.
Yep.
So there you go. It's the end of my list.
My list ends with Cemetery by Silverchair. I love this song. Would you like more? Do you want a story? That's too bad.
He ain't got it for you this week.
No, I don't want to edit out 5 minutes of silence while I think about, what do I relate to this?
This is our most vulnerable episode ever.
I like it.
Yeah.
I am, again, very sad that my friend isn't here to talk about his exquisite music, but we will have him on at some point.
Yes. We're glad that he's taking care of himself and
yes.
taking the extra precaution. I cannot stress enough how more people need to be taking precautions. I mean, this is the world we live in at the moment. We're all hoping that it'll change, but it's not going to change unless people are considerate of other people and their health situations. So
I think the exact words out of my wife's mouth this morning were, "Oh, I respect Neil even more now."
Yeah. Your pregnant wife.
Yeah.
So I hope to meet Neil soon, and I definitely hope to talk about more music with him as well as his own very soon.
So I had an 11th pick here in case we overlapped.
Okay.
And we're going to go ahead and use that as a mystery song.
Oh, we're doing another mystery song?
Yeah, we'll use the mystery song here. This one's a little different, no samples or anything, but this comes from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer soundtrack. And your hint is it was never released on a full CD by the artist that does the song from the soundtrack. That's all I'm giving you.
Okay.
So if you can tell me what the song I have in mind is, I'll let you handpick the next artist. If for some reason there are multiple songs on the soundtrack that were never released on individual CDs, I'm sorry about your life. I'm going to tell you to fuck off because I'm looking for something specific. It should be related to Halloween.
Speaking of mystery songs, we have someone that figured out our mystery song from last week, correct?
We do. The mystery song from last week was The Fuck Shop by Two Live Crew.
Welcome to the Fuck Shop.
It actually has 3 samples in it, but the other is it's like a Dolomite type CD that I did not throw in there because nobody would know. I also found a ridiculous music video for this track, and I'll throw that on mentions.
On the mentions playlist.
It's fucked.
Cannot wait.
It was by accident, too. We were talking about old animation.
Yes.
Yep. That's how I stumbled across this.
When we were talking about that, me and you, when we were talking about like the Billy Thorpe issue, was that at this time?
The Ghosty Mane, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just happened to be there. I was
Yay,
like, this
for rabbit holes.
This feels like something I have to talk about.
Got it.
But our winner had to look up the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So she's asked to not be named.
Aww.
Are you disappointed?
A little.
That's okay.
Okay.
I will do what she has asked me to do and not name her. Our winner didn't want to be named.
Yes, sorry.
She has asked us to cover Ingrid Michaelson.
Okay. I know that person. I don't know that person very well.
Well, you're about to.
I'm about to.
I'm going to pick the albums.
Okay, that's fine with me. Why don't we draw from the listener jam jar and maybe I'll end up picking these albums. I doubt it.
No.
Which, by the way, feel free to give us more listener suggestions, more artists.
I don't remember what all is in this jar, but can I say I'm feeling disappointment every time that Dr. Hook doesn't come out of that jar. Because I want to cover Dr. Hook so bad.
Well, somebody else is gonna have to. Sorry, I'm looking.
I was
I'm
going to
looking
say,
in this
what
jar.
was that?
Sorry, I saw my mother's name somewhere in here. Oh no, that means Cher.
All right. Hold eye contact.
I am.
then.
I'm not looking. I
No-
promise.
No more looking.
Okay, this one feels right. All right. This was suggested by Corey
Promising.
Reba McEntire.
Reba.
Yes.
All right.
So we have Ingrid Michaelson and Reba McEntire. I'm not going to pick these albums. You're going to pick all the
I'm
albums.
fine picking these albums.
So I am not. I watched Reba the sitcom. I am not affiliated enough with Reba to pick these albums.
Here's wishing Ingrid best of luck and what's coming. I don't
Oh,
know.
boy.
I don't know much of her work. I know some singles. I've never sat down and listened to her. I think Heather really likes Ingrid,
Okay.
but I'm a Reba fan.
I know.
So-
I know that. That's the reason why I gave that look when I pulled her. Well, here we go again next week, y'all.
You just gonna randomize your outro over there? Or are you gonna?
No, I was
Oh,
trying to transition. No.
The...
This is not my week to do the outro. I was trying to roll it over to you to add on. God, I'm working with an amateur over here.
So I'm going to do my buddy a favor. There is an interview on YouTube that he gave, Neil Ryan did, about
His
a photography
photography.
trip. And that's something I plan to talk to him about when he was on,
Mm-hmm.
because he's big into photography as well. And he's very good at that as well.
Yes, he is.
And I'm going to throw that on mentions just in case anyone wants to watch that and get a little more acquainted with him than you would already be by listening to his music. He also has a playlist on his artist page that's their favorites, the band's favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And so go check that out as well. I spent some time listening to that this week, and it was another discovery experience in places.
I listened to it on the way here too.
Yeah, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. A lot of shit I do not know.
And not very long, so it's not like one of mine where you're going to get 8,000 songs thrown
Yep.
at you. So it's great.
It won't overwhelm you as far as length, but it. Oh my god. Okay. Bye.
I'm sorry. You were being overwhelmed by something's length?
Yes. It won't overwhelm you with its length,
It's not early anymore. Now your mind is in the gutter.
but it'll definitely give you a good variety.
Yeah. Anyway, take care of yourself, Neil. We will definitely schedule you in back here
Yes.
in the future. That's going to do it for this week. Come find us online. Let us know what you want to hear next, because it's what you choose to share that ultimately makes your melody unforgettable. You can email us at rated_radio@yahoo.com. And with that, we're gone again until next time.
Peace.
How would your dad put it?
Fill your life with music.
Yes, ma'am.